The return the stars above Earth shimmered like frozen fire. For decades, peace had rested across the surface. Cities rebuilt. Oceans healed. The last war, what humans called a final push, was a memory passed through quiet whispers and tired eyes. Most didn't know what had truly happened. Only the elders, the generals, and those who had survived the occupation remembered. But peace never lasts forever, not far beyond the edge of the solar system. Ships stirred in dark silence. They weren't human. These were cold, sharp vessels with HFYs blacker than space itself. The returners had come. The Sarn had once ruled Earth. Long ago, they'd arrived in strength, enslaved cities, crushed armies. They believed humans were primitive, weak, unworthy of stars. But something changed during their first occupation, something the Sarn never understood. The humans had fought back. And worse, they had learned now. Generations later, the Sarn returned, ready to claim the lost colony once more. There, leader, Commander Velen, stood tall inside the command deck, arms crossed as Earth's blue curve appeared before them. Primitive world, Velen muttered. Still unarmed? The sensor officer nodded. Minimal space activity. No fleets. No defense satellites. Just trade ships. They've grown comfortable. Velen smiled. Then this will be quick. They did not know Earth had changed. Again. Down. On Earth, in a quiet mountain station, a young man named Tom looked up at the radar screen. He was bored, eating old crackers, watching for space junk. It had been years since any real threat was reported, but suddenly the radar pinged. Then, pinged again. He leaned in. What the hell? Hundreds of objects. No identification. No broadcast. No warning. He jumped up, heart pounding, and hit the red emergency line dot. By the time Earth's orbital sensors activated, it was already too late for calm negotiation. The Sarn fleet was inside orbit, dropping ships toward the atmosphere. There. Message came seconds later, arrogant, loud, and cold. This world belongs to the Sarn. Surrender immediately. Resistance will not be tolerated. For a brief moment, the world froze. Then came the response not from governments, not from diplomats, but from a simple voice broadcast across all frequencies. We remember you. We remember what you did. The transmission paused. This is not the same Earth, and you will not leave alive. Deep in Earth's crust, bunkers began to open. Hidden satellites turned toward the sky. And from a crater near the ruins of an old launch station, a massive platform lifted into the air. It was gray, scarred, and silent until its engines roared. The Vanguard one, Earth's first orbital dreadnought, had been waiting. Not in space, but buried hidden from the eyes of enemies. Humanity had known they would come back. And this time, they were ready. End of Part 1 asterisk. The Vanguard 1 roared through the upper atmosphere, fire trailing behind its thick armored hull. It wasn't sleek like alien ships. It wasn't beautiful, but it was terrifying in its size and power. It had been built in secret, not to explore, but to survive. To fight back. Tom watched the launch feed from the mountain station. His hands were shaking. They actually launched it, he whispered. It's real. Across Earth, old defense systems blinked back to life. Subterranean missile banks rose through hidden hatches in deserts and forests. Deep ocean torpedoes activated, waiting in silent waters. The world had appeared soft, but only because it was patient. Meanwhile, above Earth, the Sarn fleet moved into position. Commander Velen stood on the bridge of the main battlecruiser, watching the massive human ship rise. What is that thing? His second officer asked. Velen narrowed his eyes. It's not a civilian vessel. That is a war machine. But their kind doesn't build ships that large. Clearly, we were wrong. On the dark side of Earth's orbit, The Sarn moved first. 3 destroyers darted ahead, sharp like knives. They locked weapons and opened fire plasma bursts streaking toward Vanguard 1. The human dreadnought didn't dodge. Instead, it absorbed the impact. Its shields flared blue, then faded. Inside the human ship, the crew sat calm and focused. The captain, an older man named Dale, stood quietly in front of the command table. "Return fire," he said. A single railgun blast answered the lead Sarn. Destroyer vanished in a flash of light and debris. The second ship tried to retreat, but Vanguard 1 released a full salvo. Heavy torpedoes tore through its hull like paper. The third destroyer tried to flee too late. Earth had fired only once in the Sarn fleet. Panic began to ripple through the command channels. They had expected protest, maybe some ancient missiles. But not this. Not a human ship that could take direct hits and return twice the punishment. Commander Velen clenched his fists. This was supposed to be easy. "They're not what they were," his second said. "Maybe they've had help in other species?" Velen shook his head. "No, this is human." He stared at the damage report again. They've changed. Across the planet, people watched the battle unfold on every screen. Civilians, retired soldiers, students, farmers. Everyone they watched the Vanguard 1 fight back, and they felt pride. Humanity had always been underestimated. But they had survived every war, every occupation, every betrayal. They didn't build the fastest ships. They didn't use fancy plasma weapons. But when they built something, it lasted. And when they fought, it was final. The Sarn fleet repositioned. Fighters launched. Bombers armed. They began to surround Vanguard 1, hoping to swarm it. But they didn't realize that Earth's orbit held more than one secret. Behind the moon, 3 more dreadnoughts appeared. Quiet, massive, armed. The Bulwark, the Artemis, and the Stonewall, together. They formed Earth's hidden defense line, and as the Sarn fleet adjusted their sensors, the human ships came online. "This is Fleet Command," Dale's voice echoed through Earth's military net. "Targets acquired. Let's remind them." The stars above Earth flared with light. Asterisk the trap laid in silence. The sky above Earth turned into a war zone. Light from railgun fire, missile trails, and plasma bursts danced like fireworks. But this wasn't celebration. This was vengeance long. Prepared. The Vanguard 1, backed now by the Bulwark, Artemis, and Stonewall, pressed forward. The 4 dreadnoughts moved in formation, slow but unstoppable, like ancient giants waking from slumber. Inside the Sarn fleet, Commander Velen's voice rose sharply through the command channel. "Break their line. Focus fire on the rear vessel. Split their formation." The Sarn ships adjusted. Smaller corvettes darted ahead, trying to flank Earth's line, while heavier cruisers targeted the Stonewall. Blasts of green plasma filled space, but the Stonewall didn't flinch. It rotated, armor plates shifting to shield its weak points, and unleashed a wave of kinetic slugs, faster than sound, nearly invisible. One Sarn ship shattered immediately. Another spun out of control, bleeding atmosphere and fire. Velen watched in horror. "These aren't just warships," he whispered. "They're death machines." Back on Earth, Tom continued monitoring the orbital feeds. His station, once forgotten, was now connected directly to Fleet Command. He could see everything. They knew, he said to himself. They knew the Sarn would come back. That's why they built them. Old records flicked across his screen. Project names: Black Sky, Silent Guard, Operation Ember. Hidden defense programs dating back 50 years. Every one of them had prepared for this moment. Tom's screen blinked red new energy readings from deep space. He leaned forward, eyes wide. Oh no. A second Sarn fleet was arriving. Not from orbit, but from deep interstellar space. Reinforcements, Dozens more ships, carriers, battle cruisers, all heading toward Earth. Fleet Command picked it up immediately. On board Artemis, Commander Lee narrowed her eyes at the incoming data. So, they came prepared too. She turned to her comms officer. Send the signal to Site Delta. Code Avalanche. The officer hesitated. Are you sure, Commander? Lee nodded. This war isn't just above Earth. It's across the system. Far across the solar system, near the edge of Mars' orbit, a hidden station woke up. Deep within asteroid belt fields, giant rail arrays emerged from disguised rock. Silos opened. Drones launched. This was Site Delta, Earth's trap. The incoming Sarn fleet didn't detect the trap until it was too late. As they crossed into firing range, the asteroids came alive massive, spinning weapons platforms disguised as space rocks. Without warning, the trap was sprung. 3 Sarn capital ships exploded in seconds. Drones swarmed their bombers. Mines detonated across their path. Panic swept the Second Fleet. It wasn't just Earth they had to fear. It was every inch of space around it. On board Vanguard 1, Dale heard the confirmation tone in his ear. Site Delta is active. The ambush worked. He gave a rare smile. Good. Now box them in. The human fleet split. 2 dreadnoughts remained in low Earth orbit to defend, while Vanguard 1 and Bulwark moved to meet the new threat. No retreat. No fear. Earth had not only prepared for this fight, Earth had planned for it. Asterisk. Commander Velen looked at the collapsing Second Fleet on the long-range scans. His hands trembled. This was a trap? All of it. He realized then the humans had let them approach. Let them come close. Let them think Earth was vulnerable. But the moment they crossed the line, Earth snapped its jaws shut. And now they were bleeding ships every minute. What do we do, sir? The officer asked, voice tight with fear. Velen turned toward the planet below. We pray, or we run. But Earth had one more card to play. Asterisk, Earth's hidden hand. The silence in the Sarn war room was heavy. Commander Velen stared at the tactical display, eyes twitching as red blips disappeared, each one a Sarn vessel lost to Earth's hidden guns or relentless warships. What is this madness? He whispered. He had believed humans were broken. Their cities were soft, their technology outdated. Yet here they stood, turning an invasion into a massacre. Earth had prepared in secret, hiding its strength until the very moment it would hurt the most. Velen turned to his staff. Pull back the remaining cruisers. Form a defensive ring. One officer, shaking, asked, And then what, Commander? We wait to be hunted? Velen's voice turned cold. We survive long enough to understand what we're dealing with. In orbit, a Vanguard 1 shifted course, leading the push into open space where the second Sarn fleet was still reeling from the ambush. Inside the ship, Captain Dale stood at the command table as reports poured in. 28 confirmed enemy kills from Site Delta, an officer said. They're scattering. No organized command left. Dale gave a short nod. Maintain pressure, but don't destroy them all. Everyone turned to look at him. He stared forward, voice low. Leave some alive. They need to carry the message. Elsewhere. In Earth's system, the final phase of Earth's counterattack activated. High above the moon's far side, a structure the size of a mountain rose from lunar rock. It was invisible to standard scans. Wrapped in cloaking technology, Earth had never shared. It was called Project Warden, a weapons platform so powerful, even Earth's own people debated whether it should exist. Now, it activated for the first time. Single pulse of deep blue energy fired from the Warden. It didn't explode. It disrupted. The beam struck the heart of the remaining Sarn fleet, a command ship coordinating what was left of the attack. Its systems went dead instantly. Engines offline, Weapons frozen. Shields gone. The ship simply stopped. Like a puppet with its strings cut. Then Earth's drones moved in. Back in the mountain radar station, Tom watched it all unfold in disbelief. He whispered to himself, they never even knew? The Sarn had returned expecting to dominate. Instead, they had walked into a galaxy-shaking demonstration of power dot. He tapped into the fleet command logs, watching archived feeds from Project Warden, Site Delta, and all 4 dreadnoughts in motion. And he realized something chilling. This wasn't the full extent of Earth's power dot. This was just what Earth chose to show. On the Sarn command ship, power flickered. Commander Velen's ship was dead in space. The stars around him lit up with flashes of war. A nearby screen showed a live feed of Earth. He stared at it. How? He muttered. How had these humans gone from rebels to monsters of war? How had they built this network? This system of defense? This fleet of nightmares? And then the answer came not from data, not from reports, but from a voice that broke into every remaining Sarn consistent. It was Captain Dale. He spoke calmly. You came to take Earth again. But Earth was never yours. You thought we were weak because we stayed quiet. But quiet isn't weakness. It's patience. The signal paused, then returned. Tell your people. Tell your empires. Earth is not to be touched. Or next time, we won't leave survivors. The Sarn fleet began its retreat. Not orderly, not proud, just running. And above Earth, the human ships didn't chase. They watched. They waited. And they remembered. Because the stars had finally learned why humans were feared across the galaxy. And Earth still had secrets left. Asterisk. The message echoes across the stars. The Sarn fled. Burned, broken, and humiliated, the remaining ships limped back toward deep space. Wounded vessels dragged behind, engines flickering. Some couldn't even jump to light speed-towed like wreckage behind the few functional carriers. But Earth didn't follow. That silence terrified the survivors more than any gun ever could. On Earth, screens slowly faded to black as the battle ended. People in cities, towns, ships, and spaceports sat in stunned silence. What they had just witnessed wasn't war. It was dominance. Old veterans wept. Young children stared wide-eyed. And those who had doubted humanity's strength no longer spoke. Tom leaned back in his chair at the mountain station and exhaled deeply. They'll think twice next time, he whispered. Then he paused, correcting himself. No, there won't be a next time. Elsewhere, across the galaxy, news of Earth's victory spread like wildfire. In trading stations and border colonies, word passed from mouth to mouth. Did you hear? The humans. They held off the Sarn. 4 dreadnoughts. Hidden weapons. 1 ship destroyed half a fleet. They say Earth never stopped building. Just hid everything. They knew this was coming. The Sarn didn't just lose. They were crushed. Rumors turned to panic. Then to respect. Then fear. Governments that once mocked humanity held emergency meetings. Alliances reconsidered their positions. Old enemies pulled their ships back from Earth's borders. And even pirate factions deleted Earth's coordinates from their targeting maps. No one wanted to be next. On the Sarn homeworld, the High Council gathered in panic. The chamber buzzed with fearful voices, each commander trying to place blame or find excuses. Commander Velen stood before them, blood on his shoulder from a deep cut during the retreat. They were ready for us, he said. They planned for U.S. for years, maybe decades. One counselor growled. They were weak before. What changed? Velen looked up, eyes dark. They didn't forget. That's what changed. He let the words settle and continued. While we moved on, they prepared. Back on Earth, the cleanup began. Not of ruins, there were none, but of old warnings, old shadows. The defense network slowly powered down. Drones returned to their silent stations. The Vanguard 1 returned to high orbit, where it stood watch. Fleet Command released a message. To all human colonies, Earth remains unbroken. All systems secure. The invaders have been repelled. The stars now understand. At the end of the message was a single, quiet sentence. They came to take our home. And now they know better. In a quiet underground bunker, Captain Dale reviewed the reports. He had no medals on his chest, no flags behind his seat. Just one screen showing a spinning image of Earth from orbit. His officer asked, "Sir, should we pursue the survivors?" Dale shook his head. "No, let them carry the story." He stood, walked to the viewing window, and looked out into space. "Because fear," he said softly, "travels faster than light." And so the legend began. Of the blue world at the edge of the spiral. Of the humans who never forgot. Of the warriors who waited in silence. Of Earth. And why no one dares to threaten it. Again. Asterisk fear beyond the stars. The shockwaves of Earth's victory rippled farther than any broadcast signal. Deep within the unexplored regions of the galaxy, where governments ruled through strength and species, fought for resources, word of the Sarn defeat spread fast. The message was simple. Do not approach Earth. Do not provoke the humans. They are not what they once were. On the planet Tuvran, where warriors were raised in brutal duels from birth, the High Warlord smashed his drinking bowl in rage upon hearing the news. "Cowards!" he shouted. How could the Sarn lose? But when his advisor handed him the battle footage grainy clips of Earth's dreadnoughts vaporizing ships, lunar weapons firing in silence, and the cloaked ambush near Mars, he fell quiet. Even the Tuvran, with their obsession for war, knew what they were seeing. This was no lucky victory. This was controlled, calculated annihilation. In the outer rim, at a neutral trading post orbiting a black hole, smugglers and rogue captains sat at bar tables, watching the footage on loop. One old merchant leaned forward, whispering to a younger pilot, "You ever wonder why humans never expanded fast? Never joined the central councils?" The pilot shook his head. "Because," the old man said, "they didn't want to. They were watching, learning, preparing, letting everyone else show their hands." The young pilot looked nervous. "So, are they going to attack next?" "No." The merchant said, "They don't need to. Fear does the work for them." Back on Earth, Captain Dale stood in a room filled with senior commanders. Holographic stars floated in the air, showing other regions of the galaxy. Red markers glowed, where other empires had placed fleets. Yellow lines marked borders. But Earth was surrounded by a growing empty space that no one dared post near it now. "Status report," Dale said calmly. "Alien patrols near Neptune space have pulled back. Sarn scouts spotted fleeing coreward. Trade routes are open, but untouched. Everyone is backing off." "Good," he replied. Then he turned toward a second officer. "And the signal?" "It's still broadcasting, sir." In the dark void between stars, far from Earth's light, a signal traveled endlessly. It was on a repeating loop, clear and slow. In every galactic language known, Earth stands ready. We do not seek conquest, but if you come to take what is ours, we will show you why humans are feared across the stars. The message ended the same way every time, with the image of a Sarn battleship exploding under a single shot from Vanguard 1. Some species deleted the signal immediately, afraid to even store it. Others studied it, terrified by how calm it sounded. In a hidden system, where machines ruled instead of flesh, an artificial intelligence overseeing a robotic fleet paused its expansion plans. Reviewed the signal. analyzed the energy patterns, then issued a single directive. Avoid Sector 17C. Avoid Sol. Avoid Earth. Even machines could learn fear. And still, on Earth, humanity did not celebrate. There were no parades, no loud victories, because Earth had not fought for pride. It had fought for survival. And now, the galaxy knew. Behind the quiet forests and blue oceans, behind the peaceful cities and slow diplomacy, lived a species that could be kind, but would never be conquered again. Asterisk. Earth remains untouched. The stars no longer looked the same to the galaxy. Once, Earth had been seen as a quiet, forgotten world scarred by old wars, isolated, primitive by galactic standards. Now, it stood at the center of every whispered conversation, every hushed council meeting, every new border treaty. Earth had not only repelled an invasion, it had shaken the galaxy without leaving its own skies. In deep space, aboard a drifting Sarn lifeboat, Commander Velan sat slumped against a cold metal wall. The emergency lights blinked above him. There was no fleet left to command, no empire behind him. Only silence. A weak hum buzzed in the corner. Another Sarn captain's voice crackled through. We're regrouping at the edge of the Kryn belt. What's left of us? Velan didn't answer. He stared at the cracked datapad in his hand, still glowing with Earth's final message. This is not the same Earth. He understood now. The humans hadn't changed. They had evolved. Quietly, carefully, he looked out through the small window of his pod at the far-off stars. Don't go back, he whispered to himself. Not as an order, not as a plan, but as a warning. Back on Earth, in the quiet forests of the northern regions, children played under the trees. Cities hummed with life. Markets bustled. The sky was clear. Few talked about the battle anymore. There were no statues, no songs. Because Earth didn't want to glorify war. They only wanted one thing: to never be attacked again. At the mountain station, Tom looked over the same radar screen he'd watched during the invasion. Nothing but peaceful skies now. Still, the defense systems remained online. Cloaked satellites continued their silent watch. Deep below the surface, the dreadnoughts were being resupped, just in case, because Earth remembered. And Earth prepared. Always. Captain. Dale stood once again in the command center of Vanguard 1, now back in orbit. A new officer approached him. Sir, would you like to record a message to the public? Something reassuring? Dale shook his head. The people don't need words. They've seen the sky. He looked out through the main viewport at Earth below. That's all the message they need. Across the galaxy, other races moved carefully now. Colonies expanded away from Sol. Alliances rewrote their maps. Pirate lords vanished from near-Earth sectors. Diplomatic envoys changed their tones. Some asked if Earth would demand tribute. But Earth didn't want riches. It only wanted peace and the right to be left alone. Yet, now everyone understood. If that peace was ever broken again, if even one more enemy crossed the line, then Earth would not hold back. In a distant system, where a new species had just unlocked faster than light travel, their explorers asked a question. Which systems should we avoid? The response from the navigation AI was instant. Avoid Sol system. Avoid Earth. Threat level, unknown. Possible classification, apex level civilization. Reason, no confirmed defeats in modern history. The explorers looked at each other, confused. Then one of them asked, "What's Earth?" The pilot, older and wiser, leaned forward and whispered, "A place we don't talk about. A world that woke the stars with silence. The home of a species that never forgives and never forgets." And so Earth remained untouched, not by fear alone, but by earned respect and the terrifying truth that when humanity rises, the stars burn red, End of Part 7.